I came back to my ranch one morning to find tire marks cutting across the dirt path near the lake. The sight made my blood run hot because I knew only one person in this neighborhood had the nerve: Karen. She was the self-declared queen of the HOA, armed with rules, fines, and the constant belief that she owned more than she did. This time she had gone further. My neighbor whispered that Karen had told everyone her son was the new owner of the lake on my property. I didn't believe it until I saw the sign. Right there, staked into the ground, was a wooden post with bold paint: Private Lake, property of Tyler. Tyler was her 20-year-old son, spoiled beyond measure and constantly cruising around, like the world owed him something. He stood on the dock that morning with his chest-puffed, fishing pole in hand, as if he had inherited some grand estate. "Mom says this lake is mine now," he shouted when he saw me, grinning with arrogance. My jaw tightened. It wasn't a mistake. Karen had actually tried to give my lake away. I confronted her that afternoon. She stood in her perfectly trimmed front yard, sipping from a mug, acting like this was all normal. "Your lake doesn't fit with the HOA's vision," she declared, like a queen passing down judgment. "So we've reassigned it to my son. He'll maintain it, stock it, and use it. Consider it a community improvement." I laughed in disbelief. "Karen, that lake has been on my ranch since before your HOA even existed. You can't give away what you don't own," she sneered. "We'll see about that." It didn't take long for the cops to show up. Apparently Karen had dialed them, claiming I was trespassing on her son's lake. 2 squad cars rolled down my gravel road, lights flashing, dust rising in the late afternoon air. Neighbors gathered at the edges of their yards, watching with excitement, like it was a free show. Karen strutted behind the officers, arms folded, chin lifted. "That's him," she declared, pointing at me. "He refuses to leave my son's property." The officers looked confused. "Your son's property? Ma'am, can we see the deed?" Of course, she didn't have one. Instead, she shoved HOA papers at them, bylaws about lawn care and paint colors, waving them like holy scripture. The officers skimmed them before looking back at me. I reached calmly into my truck and pulled out my folder. Inside were records, deeds, and something Karen never expected: financial documents proving I wasn't just a landowner, but also the federal auditor assigned to oversee HOA budgets in our county. Their funds, their fines, their operations, every dollar they touched fell under my review. Karen had picked the wrong battle. When the officers compared my paperwork with hers, the difference was clear. One was authority, the other was arrogance. "Ma'am," one officer said carefully, "this gentleman not only owns the lake, but he's also responsible for oversight of HOA finances in this jurisdiction. This is above our pay grade." Karen's face drained of color, but her son stomped forward. "No, Mom promised me this lake. He can't just take it back." The crowd chuckled. For once, Karen had no words. The power she clung to slipped away, unraveling in front of everyone. I told the officers I wasn't pressing charges yet. Instead, I turned to Karen with a calm smile. "Since you've made this a public matter, let's keep it public. I'll be reviewing your HOA's budget this week. Every dollar, every fine, every so-called improvement. If I find anything off, you'll be answering for it." The officers nodded, confirming the legitimacy of my authority. Karen sputtered, trying to object, but the neighbors were already whispering, some smiling at the thought of her finally being held accountable. For the first time, Karen looked cornered. The review began the next morning. I walked into the HOA office, where Karen and her board sat stiffly around a table. Piles of folders, receipts, and ledgers filled the room. They tried to look confident, but their eyes betrayed them. It didn't take long to find irregularities, thousands of dollars in landscape improvements that didn't exist, administrative expenses that led directly to Karen's personal account, and unexplained charges that reeked of fraud. Every page was a nail in the coffin of her empire. My pen flew across the audit forms, each signature sealing her fate. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. Residents, who had been bullied with fines and threats for years, started approaching me, thanking me, and offering their own evidence. Some handed me letters they'd received, bogus violations for flowers planted in the wrong spot, or kids, bikes left in driveways. Others brought receipts for special assessments they had paid, but never saw put to use. The picture became clear. Karen had been using the HOA as her personal piggy bank, hiding behind authority to line her pockets. And now the spotlight was blinding. By the third day, Karen could no longer maintain her mask. She stormed into the audit room, slamming her palms on the table. "This is harassment," she shouted. "You have no right to do this." I looked up slowly, locking eyes with her. "Actually, Karen, I have every right. I oversee HOA budgets across this state, and thanks to your little stunt with my lake, I decided to prioritize yours." Her face burned red, her hands trembling. For once, she had no comeback. She stormed out, her heels clicking like gunshots on the tile. The final report was devastating. Not only had Karen funneled money into her personal accounts, but she had also authorized fake maintenance projects, overcharged residents, and falsified records. The state attorney's office received my file within hours. Subpoenas followed. Days later, Karen's reign crumbled like rotten wood, her power stripped piece by piece until there was nothing left. Her son, once bragging about his lake, now avoided everyone's eyes, humiliated by the scandal his mother had triggered. The dock stood empty, the fake sign tossed into the trash where it belonged. The HOA board dissolved under the weight of evidence. Residents voted to disband the association entirely, freeing themselves from Karen's grip. Without her influence, the neighborhood began to breathe again. People repainted homes in colors they liked, planted gardens without fear of fines, and enjoyed the lake as guests on my ranch, welcomed instead of punished. The sense of community Karen claimed to enforce finally grew naturally, out of freedom instead of fear. Ironically, it took destroying the HOA to give the neighborhood real unity. Karen tried to salvage her reputation. She went on social media, ranting about corruption and unfair treatment, but no one believed her anymore. Her words were hollow, her credibility gone. Even her closest allies abandoned her, unwilling to go down with the sinking ship. Her son moved away quietly, his inheritance gone before it ever existed. The empire she had built on intimidation, lies, and greed had collapsed completely, all because she thought she could take what wasn't hers. As for me, life on the ranch returned to peace. My Harley sat proudly in the driveway. My barn stood, strong, and the lake sparkled in the sunlight untouched by false claims. Sometimes I'd sit on the dock with a fishing rod, neighbors joining me freely, laughter carrying across the water. It wasn't just my victory. It was justice for every family Karen had bullied, every dollar she had stolen, every ounce of peace she had shattered. And it all started because she thought she could give away a lake she never owned. I often think back to that day when the patrol cars rolled up and Karen pointed at me like I was a criminal. She thought she had all the power, that the HOA was untouchable, but she never realized that the system she worshipped, the budgets, the bylaws, the authority, was something I actually controlled. In the end, her arrogance didn't just backfire, it destroyed everything she had built. And for the first time in years, the neighborhood was finally free.